With the rising cost of nearly everything nowadays and all the shortages going on around the globe, a lot of people are holding on to their cars longer and opting to buy used cars rather than new. Today's video will talk about some of the things you need to look out for when buying a used Subaru. So guys, in the past, I've done several used Subaru buyer's guides, things that you want to check in depth, front to back, a lot of those requiring tools and diagnostic aids. I'll link those videos up here in the top corner. Today's video was spurred on by something that happened. I do a lot of mobile diagnostic work for local auto repair shops and for local used car dealers. A lot of the times, they get cars in from the auto auction. A lot of these guys are not that mechanically inclined and they want to know when there's an issue, what's going on with the car, how much it'll cost to fix it before they sell it. Now, I know a lot of the times used car dealers, independent used car lots, mom and pop places have a reputation for being sleazy, no good salesmen that will rob you blind and sell you a big old lemon. Now, in my working with these used car lots and the dealers that run them, that is a very small percentage of these car lots. A lot of these guys just don't know anything about cars. And I know that might be strange to think about for some of you. A lot of these guys are businessmen, they're salesmen. They're not mechanics. They don't know about cars. They don't know about things that go wrong. They don't know how to fix them. When I was a Snap-on tool dealer, I met tons of Snap-on dealers that weren't mechanics, never used tools in their life. They were businessmen, they were salesmen. They're in the business of selling tools, in the business of running a franchise. They are not in the business of using the tools themselves. They are selling them to an end user. Same thing with car lots. They don't have to be mechanically inclined to buy and resell a vehicle. The problem with that is a lot of times it bites them right in the butt. These guys go to the auto auctions, bid on cars because they either like the car, they like the price, or the condition of it. It's not so much that they're going there and they are going over them with a fine-tooth comb before they bid on them. A lot of times they just glance at them, make sure there's no dents and dings. It starts, there's no check engine light, and they're bidding on it. So, I know this because I've been to the auto auctions. I've actually gone with some used car dealers and they're like, I want to bid on this one, this one, this one. I go look at it, it's like, nope, nope, nope. That one's been wrecked to a total. That one needs an engine. You know, these guys don't look these cars over. I do. So, back to the point. Got called in today by a used car lot, one I've done business for many, many times, diagnosing vehicle concerns for them. Called me up on a 2008 Outback 2.5i. Not sure if it was a premium or base model. Cloth seats, hubcaps. I don't remember which trims were available in '08, so base, premium, somewhere in there. Around 172,000 miles or so. Didn't get to see the odometer, but based on the Windows oil sticker, it was like 170-something thousand miles, which, as we know, is typical for when they start having issues with the head gaskets. Actually, normally a little before that. Normal window is about 120 to 150,000 miles. So if this one is past that, so either they're really bad at this point or they've been repaired at this point. So I get the call, go check out the car. He did say that the concern was, I got a guy that's interested in buying the car. We're smelling some oil smoke and it looks like there's some oil on top of the engine. Come check it out. This guy's really interested. We need to get this fixed up. So go check it out. Thinking, all right, oil on top of the engine. There's not a lot of things that cause oil on top of the engine. If it even is oil, because he might not know, it might be power steering fluid. A lot of times I see fluid on top of the engine block when the power steering pump starts leaking. And it's kind of common on the older EJ, Outback, Legacy, Impreza, etc. for that, with age, for that power steering pump housing to start leaking and dropping fluid on the engine block. So go check it out, and this is what I found. I'm going to put in some video clips. Sorry in advance for the quality of these video clips. I was doing it quite hurriedly. It is hot as all get out. As you can see, I'm sweating like a pig. Flush, I'm sure. It's like in the 90s, so I did as best as I could with my cell phone getting some video clips for you guys. So as you see right here, there is oil on both sides of the engine block, more so on the passenger side. You can actually see where the oil has kind of cleaned the engine block. It's nice and shiny right there where that oil has been flowing across and picked up any kind of dirt or grease or buildup from years past. Now, there's really only one thing that causes oil to pool on the top of an EJ series engine in these locations, and that is a blown head gasket. The main oil galley is up there, and once it starts leaking, pressurized oil starts getting out and forcing its way up there, and it's not a good thing. So right away my head starts going head gasket, head gasket, head gasket. Now let's look around a little bit more and see if we can go ahead and finalize that is a head gasket issue. Remember, we have no tools with us, no diagnostic aids. We can't do a cylinder leakage test. We cannot do a block test, any of those normal things you do to confirm a head gasket failure. So looking in the coolant reservoir, again, sorry about the focus and the quality of the video, but the reservoir is completely bone dry. This thing is eating coolant. They said that they smelled oil smoke. Normally it's not going to burn on top of the engine block. What normally happens is when the head gaskets start going, you leak externally oil underneath between the block and the heads, and it leaks down on the exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold gets hot, smokes the oil, and then you smell burning oil. That or your rocker cover gaskets go. Normally one or the other or both. So I got my little mirror on a stick, my telescoping mirror. That's the only tool I had with me to help in the diagnostic other than a pocket flashlight. So as you see in this very bad clip, again, sorry guys, I know it's so far away, I'll try to make it bigger in editing, but I'm just using that mirror to go back and forth underneath the cylinder head and see if we've got the oil line right there between the block and the head, see if we got oil dripping off the bottom of the rocker cover. Now it looks like someone had replaced the rocker cover gasket. It says they look like they are not leaking, but we can clearly see the oil between the cylinder head and the block, which is dripping on that manifold and causing our smoking smell of oil. So another thing was they had just gone on a test drive. The car was fully up to operational temperature. And looking at the upper radiator hose, as you see here, it is tight as a tick. It is super pressurized. You can barely even squeeze it. If you look back to where the clamp is, the normal factory spring clamp is missing on that radiator hose. It's been replaced by a worm gear clamp. Also, we see that the hose has pushed itself back off of the radiator neck. A lot of times when a head gasket's blown, coolant to combustion gases build up in the cooling system and overpressurize it. Now, a lot of times I see the top tank of the radiator, this plastic piece, blow up, or I see the upper radiator hose blow off the car. Now, obviously this hose is blown off in the past because they took the spring clamp off and they put a worm gear clamp on there. We can also see that it's still pressurizing and it's pushing itself back away from the radiator. Another way to tell is to grab the top hose and grab the bottom hose and check for a noticeable, I'm talking about a big temperature change. That top hose is boiling hot, you can barely hold on to it. That bottom hose I could grab onto and hold for 10 minutes. The problem here is when combustion gases enter the cooling system, it creates an airlock. And that airlock, that air bubble gets trapped behind the thermostat more times than not. That air bubble prevents the thermostat from opening and will not let the coolant circulate through the thermostat and the lower radiator hose. So what you have is a big difference in the temperature between the top and bottom hose, which we had here as well. Now if we look at the back end of the upper radiator hose where it goes into the coolant crossover pipe at the engine block, we can actually see evidence of this again. They actually pushed the spring clamp off and left it there on the coolant crossover pipe, and they have put a worm gear clamp on instead. Another telltale sign that the system's overpressurizing and blowing off the hoses. So looking at the back side of the engine, sticking my phone in between, we can see that oil buildup on the cylinder head, the block, underneath, on the cross member, etc. Things to look out for as well, because that oil is going to leak down, and then the air rushing under the car when you're driving on the highway is going to sling that oil back. You'll see it on the transmission pan, you'll see it on the cross member, steering rack, etc. So definitely have a blown head gasket here, which is typical again of these cars, especially at the mileage. And the bad thing is that someone doctored up, patched up this car. We can tell that because they put those worm gear clamps on there, trying to keep those hoses from blowing off. Now, I've seen this multiple times recently, 2005 to 2008 Outbacks, Legacies, etc. These things get traded in at Subaru dealerships. The Subaru dealership knows the head gasket's blown, or people go and get a diagnosis of a blown head gasket. They don't want to pay the repair bill, so they just trade it in. Now, the Subaru dealership's not going to make any money paying a technician to fix this thing and then resell on the lot. So they go and dump it wholesale at the auto auction. Then these mom and pop used car dealers end up with them and they get kind of screwed. They got a big repair bill on a vehicle that they either can go back and dump at the auto auction and try to recoup their money, or they can sell to somebody and either let them know that something's wrong with it, or they can just not tell them, and then the buyer is screwed by buying a car that has a $2,000+ repair bill attached to it immediately. So guys, when looking at these used Subarus, that's one of the main things you need to check out. The condition of the engine and the head gaskets. We can check which head gaskets are on the car visually. We don't have to do anything special, no special tools. The head gasket protrudes between the block and the cylinder head, and you can tell whether it's got that single layer coated gasket or if it's got the multi-layer steel upgrade. It's just right there. You can just look there and see it. So, do your due diligence. Do not get screwed. Be cautious when looking at used Subarus around that kind of mileage. Like I said, 120 to 170,000 miles, somewhere in that range. Be overly cautious when buying them. You don't want to get stuck with them. So this is just something that you can do very quickly with your eyes and your hands. No outside tools or diagnostic aids to check your head gaskets. Look for oil leaking on top of the engine block. Look for oil leaking underneath the engine block between the cylinder heads and the engine block. Look for oil buildup on the cross member, oil buildup on the exhaust manifold, oil buildup underneath the front of the car. Look for a coolant reservoir that is low or sucked dry. Look for super tight pressurization in the top hose. See if these factory spring clamps are still in place or if worm gear clamps have been installed. Check the temperature difference between the upper and lower hose. These are things that you can do very quickly and easily yourself and not end up getting screwed by buying something with a blown head gasket and a giant repair bill. Hopefully you guys found this video useful that are looking for a used Subaru. If it was, please leave a like. Comments are always appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.